Hello class, welcome to Connected. Today we will read a story called Androcles and the Lion. By the end of this session, you will have a better understanding of the story, know new words, answer questions based on the text, and solve grammar exercises. So, let us begin. Children, this story is based in the ancient Greek society where the poor people were enslaved by rich masters. In this story, one brave slave escaped his cruel master, and then a very interesting incident happens. Let us read and find out more. Will someone volunteer to read with me? In doing so, both me and your teacher will help you. Great. So let us begin. Long, long ago, there lived a kind, gentle, and courteous man called Androcles, but he had a very cruel master. In those days, kings, nobles, and other wealthy men used poor people as their slaves. Androcles was a slave. The slaves were forced to work for their masters. They had to do what their masters told them. They had no freedom, no rights. Even when they were unhappy with their master, they could not leave him. They were bound by law to obey their master, however wicked he might be. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. Androcles did not like his heartless, wicked master. His master starved his slaves and often whipped them. Androcles felt that even death was better than serving such a master. He kept looking out for a good opportunity. At the first chance he got, he escaped from the clutches of his cruel master. Now, although Androcles had thus run away, he was not a coward. He took shelter in a forest. He was not afraid of the wild beasts that roamed the forest. He did not mind that he had no roof over his head. He was happy that he was free as a bird to go wherever he wished. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. One day, as he was wandering in the forest, he suddenly came face to face with the lion. His first reaction was to turn and flee, but then he saw that the lion had not moved on seeing him. It neither growled nor roared. In fact, it looked at him piteously as if it was in great pain. Androcles paused. Then he moved very cautiously towards the lion. Step by step, the lion moaned and whimpered. "Please help me," its eyes seemed to say. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. When Androcles drew near, the lion lowered its head and began to lick its paw. Then Androcles saw that the lion's paw was wounded, sore, and swollen. On a closer look, Androcles noticed that a big thorn had pierced one of the lion's toes. "So this is the cause of the lion's distress," thought Androcles. Summoning up all the courage, Androcles stretched his hand slowly towards the injured paw. He was afraid that the lion would attack him if he touched its swollen paw, but the lion seemed to understand his good intention. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. Androcles took the paw in his left hand. Deftly, he pulled out the thorn. Then, tearing a piece of his own clothing, the kind man bound up the lion's injured paw. To his surprise and wonder, the lion then licked his arm as if to show gratitude. Androcles remained with the lion till it could walk again. He would hunt in the forest and share his food with the helpless beast. Every day he would clean and dress the lion's wound. Soon, the lion was able to move about. Many times it followed Androcles wherever he went. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. In the meanwhile, Androcles' master had complained to the authorities that his slave Androcles had run away. Soldiers were sent in all directions to capture Androcles. They searched for him high and low but couldn't find him. At last, they came to the forest where Androcles lived. It so happened that Androcles had gone out alone that day while the lion rested near the cave. Both of them fell into the hands of the soldiers. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. The soldiers took them back to the city. They put Androcles in chains in a prison. The lion was caged. In those days, people who were found to be guilty of a serious crime were fed to wild beasts as punishment. Running away from one's master was a very serious crime at that time. Therefore, Androcles too was to be thrown to the wild beast. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. On the appointed day, the emperor arrived at the circus and took his place. The crowds cheered loudly. The trumpeters blew the trumpet and Androcles was brought into the arena. His chains were unbound. He felt weak and dismayed. He was certain that this was the last day of his life. At the opposite end, a gate was raised and a ferocious lion was released into the arena. It had been kept hungry to make it more ferocious. Androcles was filled with fear, but he put up a brave front. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. The lion saw Androcles and rushed towards him, bounding and roaring. But suddenly it stopped in its tracks. Then it moved slowly forward. All its rage seemed to have melted. Androcles saw this too. Each friend recognized the other. To everyone's amazement, the lion bounded towards Androcles again, but when it reached him, it began to purr and rub its nose against him. Androcles hugged the lion. He wept with relief and joy. Moving on, class. Will someone else read now? Very well, let's continue. The audience, including the emperor, watched this tender sight in great wonder. People began to cheer Androcles and asked for his release. The emperor asked Androcles to explain the lion's strange behavior. When he heard the whole story, the emperor was also moved by the gratitude and friendship between man and beast. He ordered that Androcles should be set free. He would no longer be a slave. When the emperor asked Androcles what other reward he would like, Androcles replied that he did not want anything for himself, but he wanted the lion to be set free too. The two friends went back to the forest to live a free life. Students, now that we have finished reading the story, let us have a look at the new words we came across today. As the meanings of these have already been shown to you earlier, I suggest you try to make sentences with them. Try to do this within 2 minutes. Show the sentences that you have made on your own to your teacher, who will correct them for you. The words are clutches, coward, flee, cautiously, distress, deftly, arena, ferocious, dismayed, and moved by. Before moving on, I will make sample sentences for you to get a rough idea. The sentence with clutches is, the child clutched his mother's hand tightly in the storm. The sentence with coward is, he was not a coward and stood up to the thieves. The sentence with flee is, the thieves fled the moment they saw police. The sentence with cautiously is, the police cautiously surrounded the thieves. The sentence with distress is, the earthquake caused distress among the people. The sentence with deftly is, he caught the thieves deftly. The sentence with arena is, the fans cheered when she entered the arena. The sentence with ferocious is, she defeated the ferocious beast in no time. The sentence with dismayed is, he was dismayed after losing the match. And lastly, the sentence with moved by is, the fans were moved by her inspiring performance. Now, let us look into some question and answers from the text. Try and answer the following questions within 4 minutes. Who was Androcles and how was he different from his master? Where did Androcles seek shelter after his escape? What did the lion seem to tell Androcles? Why was the lion in pain? How did Androcles nurse the lion's wound? Why did the soldiers come looking out for Androcles? Where did the soldiers put Androcles and the lion after their capture? What did Androcles feel after he was brought to the arena? How did the hungry lion change when he saw his friend? How did the emperor reward Androcles? Excellent answers, students. Now, match your answer with this answer sheet. Androcles was a kind, gentle, and courteous man. He was a slave long time ago. His master was heartless, cruel, and wicked. He used to starve his slaves and often whipped them. After his escape, Androcles sought shelter in the forest, where he was as free as a bird to go wherever he wished to. The lion seemed to tell Androcles to help him out of his great pain. The lion was in pain because a big thorn had pierced one of his toes and his paw was wounded, sore and swollen. Androcles cautiously moved closer to the lion, took the paw in his left hand and deftly pulled out the thorn. Then he tore a piece of his clothing and bound up the injured paw. The soldiers came looking for Androcles because his master complained to the authorities that his slave has run away. This was a big crime at that time. The soldiers took Androcles and the lion back to the city after their capture. The slave was chained in a prison and the lion was kept hungry and caged. After Androcles was brought to the arena, he felt weak and dismayed. He was certain that this was the last day of his life. When he saw his friend, the hungry lion's rage seemed to have melted. He moved forward slowly, and when he reached near his friend, the lion purred and rubbed his nose against Androcles. Moving on, class, before we end this session, let us solve an exercise on opposite words. Find from the story the antonyms of the following. Try these out within 2 minutes. Kind, poor, slave, coward, forest, happy, distress, capture, punishment, unbound. Very good, children. Now, match your answer with this answer sheet. The antonym for kind is cruel. The antonym for poor is wealthy. The antonym for slave is master. The antonym for coward is brave. The antonym for forest is city. The antonym for happy is unhappy. The antonym for distress is relief. The antonym for capture is release. The antonym for punishment is reward. And lastly, the antonym for unbound is bound. So that's it for today. Thank you, class, and I hope you all had fun learning.